The views and opinions expressed on Smack My Pitch Up are those of the panelists and not those of GUI Network, their sponsors, or any of the properties mentioned. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is rated R for violence, language, and nudity. Well, it's a podcast, so you won't see the nudity. I just do it to make the guest uncomfortable.
In a world gone mad with unnecessary reboots, remakes, and sequels, only one podcast has the guts to make it even worse. This is Smack My Pitch Up.
Hello, geeks, and welcome to another episode of Smack My Pitch Up, the podcast that reboots, remakes, reimagines, sequels, sidequels, and adapts some of your favorite and least favorite properties from film, television, and what have you. And on this episode, this was a challenge of an episode, and that makes me so much more excited to do these. When it's just kind of an easy, well, we're just modernizing it. It's still fun, but the challenge is part of the fun of this show. And my guest today that suggested this reboot or remake definitely threw some curveballs at me with this title here. We've got Thandi from My Handle is Jonathan Blade here.
What's up, Hobbit?
Thandi, the last time on you, it was Predator that you did some fortune-telling Nostradamus style of the next Nicolas Cage movie with your adaptation of Predator.
Yeah, that just means I'm basic.
Well, about as basic as Nicolas Cage, and
yeah.
If you're going to be basic, okay, I'll take that one.
Yeah, in my mind, the movie I imagined is better than Jiu-Jitsu, but it's probably not. But in my mind, I'm going to hold on to the idea that it's better than Jiu-Jitsu.
You've just expressed the feeling of every single writer in Hollywood has their script and goes, this is going to be brilliant, this will be Oscar nominated, and then they cast the dude from Miami Vice in it, and he's like, okay,
Don Johnson
in it, and he's like, okay, well, there goes that idea. Concept versus realization is usually a big jump.
That's why I just choose to never do anything, and it works out really nicely for me. That fantasy world is very rich.
And that's what I love about this show, actually, is that for those unfamiliar, we take a property, film, television, or what have you, as I said, and we come up with ideas for reboots, remakes, reimaginings, and we cast it, we throw a director on there, talk about tone, talk about how you modernize it or change it for your style, and kind of play around with it. We have 4 versions total. One version is the take that we think would be the best way to do it, and one take that's definitely not the best way to do it, but is kind of a fun outside the box.
But is the fun, yes.
The remix version. So without further ado, we are talking about a Christopher Guest movie, Waiting for Guffman, which is incredibly funny, but it's not one of the most well-known Christopher Guest movies.
I chose this for a very specific reason, because I have experience in the Waiting for Guffman arena. I did, community theater functionally, kind of avant-garde community theater, so I remember the improv exercise, warm-up exercises. I remember thinking that you're big shit in a small pond, because we were. And that whole Waiting for Guffman experience, I've had that experience.
I also have had that as the title character of Boy in one-act play Le Fin Absolutement at Mary Baldwin College. My roommate at the time was a theater director major, and because Mary Baldwin at that point was an all-girls school, guess who got pulled into a lot of the acting stuff?
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all.
Oh, trust me. No, there were definitely pros to living with the overlord lesbian of Mary Baldwin College. Not complaining.
That's amazing.
But also, this is a movie that Amy Bogart, my co-host and, co-life host, had never seen. Has seen Christopher Guest movies, had not seen Waiting for Guffman. And she is a theater major. She went to SCAD, she did the thing. And
she's young, huh?
For another month, she'll be young. And then and she gets that relief of okay, 20s are behind her. Cool. I don't feel as bad anymore. But she had that same experience, and watching Waiting for Guffman, she was squealing at the screen, why have I not seen this movie before? Because it speaks so much truth about community theater and small theater. And what I also love about Christopher Guest movies in the first place, that is very true in this movie as well, is that though the characters are quirky and that's where the humor comes from, is these amazing, weird, muted performances by these incredible actors. But it's not so much aimed at making fun of them. You're still rooting for them. There's still a warm-hearted kind of underdog current through all of these movies, whether it be Best in Show or For Your Consideration or Waiting for Guffman. You want these characters to succeed.
Well, Christopher Guest said that's his thing. He doesn't set out to make fun of people. He doesn't really like the term mockumentary. He sets out to explore the emotional lives of these insular cultures, while he's having fun, while he's making some brilliant comedy. But it's more about the exploration of the insular culture than it is about making fun of people.
And you can definitely see that with his kind of first move into this quote unquote mockumentary style with the Rob Reiner directed movie, This Is Spinal Tap. And we did a whole mockumentaries episode on Geeks Under the Influence that you can hear us talk and wax poetic about Spinal Tap and other mockumentaries. But that is really where the style of Christopher Guest movies got started. And Waiting for Guffman is beat for beat, completely a Christopher Guest movie. You've got, all the big hitters, Fred Willard, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, like all his folks are in this. So it's really hard to figure out who do you get to direct this if it's not Christopher Guest? What tone are you looking for? What actors do you engage in with this story? And I'm really interested to see kind of your approach to it. Now, I do thoroughly suggest anybody that has not had the chance to see Waiting for Guffman to do so before digging into this episode, because it is wildly entertaining and well worth your time. I believe it's on HBO Max, if I remember correctly, and I'm sure it's available for rent on a number of different services as well if you don't have HBO Max. But
yeah, I bought it on digital, so it's out there. I think I have the DVD, which is how it came to mind immediately. But yeah, it is definitely out there.
Yeah, so I thoroughly suggest checking it out. But let's just get into it, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of explanations coming on with this episode here. So for your overall tone, are you approaching it as a mockumentary? Are you doing it stylistically different? Are you making it comedy or just a drama? Or what's your go here?
So my serious take is still a mockumentary. It's still the same tone, just modernized in a number of ways, but we're still going for the same Christopher Guest mockumentary style.
Okay. I am going a little bit of an evolution from the mockumentary style, definitely inspired by that real documentary aesthetic, and has evolved from that into what's known as the mumblecore subgenre of independent film. This was made big by Hannah Takes the Stairs, Baghead, a number of other like super indie movies where the main focus is that they're more dialogue driven and are filmed in a almost documentary style, very ultra real style.
Supposed to be like people, like regular people.
As
far as the presentation.
Exactly. And then the language is very like half improvised, where there's a general script, but they can go off the script to make it feel more like real conversation, less scripted. And it's become kind of an imprint for a lot of more modern indie movies on how it's approached. And there's some big actors and directors that have come from known people that have come from that mumblecore movement. And I figured, as far as like an evolution of that Christopher Guest mockumentary style, something that's got its comedic moments, but it's more of a kind of like, if Manic Pixie Dream Girl was a style of movie making, this would be that. It's that kind of like warm and sad at the same time with a whimsical note to it is the kind of tone. Think basically Garden State as a genre. And then Elizabethtown. Those are kind of the more like better financed indie movies that are a direct response to the mumblecore movement. So a mumblecore is more of like a super indie version of those movies. So you're going to get, we'll get into some of the heavy hitters of mumblecore in the moving forward on this one. So
I'm excited to hear it.
So with your story, are you sticking to pretty much the same story arc, or are you going a little bit different with that?
The trappings of the story are different. So in my story, what is happening is that, of course, you're familiar with collabs. We're doing one right now. It's a mega YouTube collab going across all genres of YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And sponsored by Surge, which is being relaunched by a Chinese company.
Wow. So basically the same story is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. No changes really.
But the beats and the way that people occupy their spaces in this story are going to be very similar.
Sure. With me, again, it's going to be a little bit less of the quirky character funny kind of approach and more of like whimsical as opposed to like directly more smiles than laughs is what I'm going for with this kind of look. And the one thing that I really wanted to tackle is that the overall story arc is relatively the same, but the major note that's being hit is wanting to be closer to your true self, like, or what you want to be, who you want to be, what you want to do. And that's touched on in the original, that at the end, the actors end up like some go to Hollywood, some move to try to find their place in the world. And I really wanted to dig into that.
Except for poor Parker Posey.
Except for poor Parker Posey. But in addition to that, I wanted to definitely approach the character of Corky St. Clair a little bit more with a modern touch. There is a way that it can be misconstrued, the intention of the character of Corky that was played by Christopher Guest.
I was thinking about that as I was watching it, actually. So
yeah, that it's not overtly like cringy, but it is definitely, every single gay trope is being used at the same time with that character. And that's the thing, is like, you don't need to go that hard to still have that character. I mean, theater gay. You have a theater gay from New York? Okay, cool. But you don't have to go with the lispy voice and then the weird clothes. And like, that's just too much. You have the self-important theater gay, the one that theater kind of approach. And then you're not playing with the gay tropes. You're playing with the theater nerd tropes. And I think that's way more of it's not distracting from the intention of the film with a bunch of weird, unnecessary tropes. You're still hitting those notes. And
exactly.
So that's my approach with it. Otherwise, it's really just a conversation of people pushing away from the things that are inhibiting them and trying to get to a place where they feel like they're fully realized is my main focus. So
you're looking towards entertaining a younger audience, I think.
A little bit. Yeah. I think this tone, there's notes of it that are going to be there. That's a spiritual nod, I think, to the original, but it is definitely intended for the next generation, generation that looks at 1996 clothes from Waiting for Guffman and go like, oh God, why were they wearing that? No, everyone was wearing that back then. Like, it's not, that's not out of place, really. If you were in Missouri in 96, you saw people looking like that walking down the street.
And probably a lot of hate crimes, yeah.
A lot. A whole lot. That's also something that I had trouble with, because I do consider making sure that there's better representation in a lot of my castings. But Christopher Guest movies are so white in general that it's really, and especially something in Blaine, Missouri, it feels like there was only so much I could do without it feeling like
inauthentic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to kind of there is some representation, but not much. And I felt weird about it, but any more than that, and it's just completely, it's inauthentic. It feels like it's trying to be the same thing that 2016 Ghostbusters was, where it pushed it too hard. You can still have that conversation without it being only about that conversation. Yeah. Sure. Let's get into your casting.
All right. Director first. Let's see. So because I'm basically doing a modern mockumentary, for the directors, co-directors, we have Jorma Kiv, Jorma Tacone and Akiva Schaffer, the directors of Popstar. So Lonely Island, basically.
Wow.
Directing.
Yep. Okay. No, I'm mad that I didn't even consider that. That is such a duh.
Yeah, they're perfect. Popstar is actually one of my favorite comedies of all time. So.
It's
immediately came to mind.
It's so dumb where you're almost thinking it's too dumb, but it just stops right where it needs to before it gets too dumb. Like, it just kind of it knows what it is and it plays with that space. I love it.
Yeah, and everybody's great. They're having fun. They generate a genuine camaraderie there. Love it. But for my cast, for my players, as Corky St. Clair, who in this version is a bread tuber. And if you're not familiar with bread tubers they're basically video essayists who are incredibly left. Like they're super left. They're obnoxiously left. And in this case, yeah, they're insufferable. But in this case, Bill Hader is going to be the Corky St. Clair of the project. So he is the person who was approached by Surge because of his huge presence. And he's the one who is trying to coordinate all of the players to come together to do this mega collab.
Okay. I like that. Bill Hader is incredibly talented.
Yeah.
And and obviously from SNL can create any character he wants to for this role.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And then for Libby Mae Brown, who was Parker Posey in the original movie, we have Heidi Gardner, also from SNL. She does makeup tutorials. And basically, it's the same character that she does on SNL already, who's like, she has a YouTuber character who's taken, actually, she does that same character for Instagrammer, but it's all like young people culture.
Sure.
And she's going to rock it as this makeup tutorialist.
I do want to point out that we both have definitely shooting for your younger generation approach to this in our own ways. And it's going to make us sound so fundamentally old on how we get close but don't quite hit it. I'm
an old person. I am so removed. Being a nerd gets me kind of in touch, but I'm still like 2 generations removed. It's all good.
I call it the TikToks for a reason. Is that I get why it's popular. I do. It's just it's so not my bag at all.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
But TikTok is actually a phenomenon for like soccer moms and stuff. So the olds have joined that culture. It's just a regular thing. I think what's the new thing with the audio interaction? Clubhouse. That's where all the people are going now.
Oh God, there's another one?
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
No. I just stopped wearing cargo shorts. Like I can't keep up with all this shit.
Just put them in a closet because everything old is new again. It's going to come back.
Sweet.
All right, so for Dr. Alan Pearl, who is Eugene Levy, we have Andy Samberg, because Lonely Island.
Yes.
And he is Dr. Mike, who's an online YouTube doctor, and he builds audience by doing silly presentation to drive engagement. Clown nose, maybe nerdy stuff, whatever.
Like the Patch Adams of dentistry kind of deal?
Yeah.
Oh, no. That's so fucking perfect.
Yeah, he's going to be awesome. Then we have the Albertsons, who were Catherine O'Hara and Fred Willard.
Mm-hmm.
And those are played by Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig, and they're basically the Holdernesses. And the Holdernesses are a obnoxious YouTube family that does music videos with their kids.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So like the YouTuber version of like Partridge Family.
Yes, they are horribly obnoxious.
Oh, no.
But they're perfect. They're perfect. And then as far as Lloyd Miller, who was the composer who led the music for the play, was played by Bob Balaban. In this production, he plays video game themes on a harp, and it's Jay Baruchel.
Yes, my boy. Woohoo!
You can thank Hobbit for getting in there, Jay.
Yay.
Johnny Savage, who is the handsome one. In this one is not the handsome one. He's a Twitch tuber. He plays video games online. Pete Davidson.
Perfect. Yep.
Glenn Welsh, who was the mayor, was Larry Miller in the original production. In this production, Jason Sudeikis, who is not a mayor. He's the representative from the brand collab from Surge, basically. He's the Surge brand representative.
That makes more sense, yeah.
And then Steve Stark, who was on City Council, Michael Hitchcock in the original one. And this one is Will Forte as the assistant representative for the Surge brand.
Damn. You went off on the casting on this. Right. Holy shit.
But I've got 2 more characters. So they do their collab. They're trying to keep it open because the biggest YouTuber of all time is this guy named Guffman.
Yep.
And Guffman's like Mr. Beast. So they see that that Guffman is dropped into the super chat after they do this live collab, so they try to interact with him, and they see it's not Guffman, it's false Guffman, it's Seth Rogen as false Guffman, who won some kind of contest on Guffman's channel and is now running Guffman's channel for a day.
That's perfect. Hell yeah.
So, and then we see Guffman, but he never interacts with the main core cast, and Guffman is James Franco.
Damn.
Yep.
That's so weirdly fitting. I mean, like all the beats of the movie, all the ways that the characters interact with each other somehow fit the same thing, which speaks to creators and the way that people get their content, though it has changed. The interaction, the relationships are still there kind of the same way.
Yeah, people don't change.
Yeah.
The trappings that we live in change, but people are still people.
Ooh. I'd be interested to see, and that's the thing, you could have made a Waiting for Guffman remake this way during quarantine.
Yeah.
You could have done that. You'd have to be kind of smart about how you approached it, with both in chat shots and then, separate ones.
I mean, if SNL could pull it off, then yeah.
Fair. Yeah. Fair point.
They didn't pull it off well, maybe the first time, but after that, it kind of came together pretty well. So.
Well, I've seen that with a few things, especially some of the late night hosts. They're the ones that are really adapting very well to the no studio audience thing, and the other ones that are just kind of barely scraping by. There's winners and losers to every think on your feet moment.
It's the time at which you have to accept that you're an old.
Yeah. That's coming into crystal clarity with my my birthday about a month away, and it being one of those divisible by 10 birthdays. So it's going to be...
You podcast like a young man.
You simply adopted the podcast. I was born into it, molded by it. Remember when there wasn't such a thing as a pod player? You had to download your episodes before streaming was an option.
You found it in our SS feed.
Right. All right. So yeah, I have for my director, Noah Baumbach.
Nice. And
if you are unfamiliar, he's done a number of stuff, both independent in that mumblecore approach and stuff that has been a little bit more popular. Margot at the Wedding is a classic mumblecore movie. Squid and the Whale, Greenberg, Francis Ha, which starred his wife. He's married to Greta Gerwig.
Mm-hmm.
He did the Merowitz stories. He did Marriage Story, which is really kind of his biggest accolade at this point, because holy crap, that's a great movie.
Yeah, I own The Squid and the Whale. It's not bad either.
No, not at all. And then he is also the writer of The Life Aquatic and Fantastic Mr. Fox as well. So
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Nice. So
he's got versatility. And the one thing that I was joking about with Amy earlier when I was trying to come up with this is that I had at first thought about tapping Wes Anderson to do a version of this. But Wes Anderson just feels like a non-mockumentary style Christopher Guest movie. Like,
because it's so white.
It's so white. It's so, but no, it's affluent white. The waspy side of white. And it was just too close. It was too close for it to really work that way. With Noah Baumbach, there's a kind of a poorness to it. I don't know. It's a little bit more approachable and real in that non-documentary style. So I really liked that idea. And we're hitting some theater actors and that are both in film and theater. And we also have some mumblecore big names as well. For Corky St. Clair, I wanted the theater kind of tone, where pretentious and kind of full of themselves because they were in one off-Broadway production of something in New York. And then later, after they were in the production, it went to Broadway. But it wasn't because of them at all, but they have that like thing that they can point to.
I have been involved.
Yes, exactly. Like the person that tried out for a band that got popular later, but they were never in the band. They just tried out for it when they started. And they're like, oh, no, I tried out for that band.
Oh, like the Clarences.
Yeah.
You don't remember the Clarences, do you?
No.
All right. So the fifth Beatle was actually Clarence, and it was Eddie Murphy.
Oh, I think I do remember that skit. Yeah.
You play the record backwards and you can hear the bands conspiring to get rid of Clarence.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I really wanted that tone to be how they approached Corky St. Clair in this version. So it's not 90 minutes of gay jokes. It's more about him being a pretentious like theater actor, but people buying into it. Like that he's it's the same trope that's used in a million things. Even in like Hot Fuzz, there were the two actors that were in extras in Straw Dogs. You know, there's always that trope. Even in Schitt's Creek, which is so Christopher Guest adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
It feels almost like a continuation of Waiting for Guffman in some ways. Moira.
There's a Levy family, yeah.
Yeah, and Moira very much has that same kind of like Corky St. Clair energy of being just like this kind of minorly successful actress. And the whole town is like, holy shit, we have a celebrity. So for that, I'm going with Zachary Quinto.
Nice.
For that role.
Totally see that.
Of course, Star Trek, Nosferatu, Heroes, American Horror Story. But really, I'm looking more at The Boys in the Band, which was a little rough because talk about like something that didn't age the best. It was a stage play that was done in like right before the Stonewall riots.
Oh, that's... Ugh.
Yeah, and it's about a bunch of gay men that are basically like really fucking hateful to each other. And it's all about like self-hatred within the gay community, and that's the conversation it's having. But it was written before there was really like a more nuanced conversation about that, and really a push to get away from that kind of attitude. So it comes off as really jarring in the film version of it, which is available on Netflix. And Zachary Quinto is, and to their credit, they did cast members of the LGBTQ community to be in the roles for these characters, which I think is like kind of important to allow for gay characters to be played by gay actors and actresses. So I wanted that to be the case here as well. And his character in Boys in the Band is this just like, I mean, that kind of person that can say something that's an offhand insult, but it is so stinging and so sharp without any effort. And so I want to have a little bit of that energy in this role for Corky. Then for Ron Albertson, I wanted the kind of borderline controlling husband attitude about it, where he knows more about acting than his wife does. He's not abusive with it, but he's definitely stepping on her a little bit with their acting together. Adam Driver, who's been in a million No Baumbach stuffs. He's one of his regular go-tos. And he is married to Sheila Albertson. So this is Fred Willard and Catherine O'Hara. That's Greta Gerwig, No Baumbach's wife, has been in several movies. They've collaborated and written stuff together. And I think also their height difference would be kind of interesting to see on screen as well. Because, you know, as we all know, Adam Driver is like 7 feet tall.
He's a monstrous man.
He's a gigantic man. Right before doing this, I rewatched the John Oliver where
he wanted to be crushed by Adam Driver.
And Adam Driver
and then Adam get on the show.
Yeah. Oh, it's some of the one of the most brilliant moments on that show. So we got Adam Driver, Greta Gerwig as the married couple. Then we've got Libby Mae Brown, and I will probably mispronounce the first name of this actress. Saoirse Ronan.
Saoirse,
that's what it is. Saoirse Ronan. Has been in a million things. Lovely Bones, Brooklyn, Hannah, Lady Bird, Little Women, The Way Back, and Grand Budapest Hotel, just to name a few. She is an indie darling that has been involved in both mumblecore and major productions as well.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. She, you know, I have feelings about Lady Bird and Little Women, which I think both of them are good movies, and neither one of them appeal to me.
I get exactly what you mean, is that this is great for the people that it's aimed at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of them scream white people problems to me.
I get that very much, yeah. And that's honestly like some of this like mumblecore stuff very much has that same kind of attitude about it, which when you look at a lot of the Christopher Guest stuff as well, kind of has that same, I mean, Best in Show.
Yeah, but Christopher Guest is taking the piss out of white people problems. That's
true.
That's why I love his movies.
Yeah, that's true. Then we've got for Dr. Alan Pearl, another person that came from the mumblecore movement. I'm swear I'm going to stop saying that. We've got Mark Duplass.
I know the name, but what's he from?
Safety Not Guaranteed, which is one of my favorite like indie time travel movies of all time. It's fantastic. It's so it's whimsical and warm-hearted, and there's no venom behind it, but it's goofy at the same time. And The League, he was in The League. He was in Greenberg. He did Creep 1 and 2, the super independent horror films. And Hannah Takes the Stairs as well was like one of his entries into that that genre. Then we've got for Bob Balaban, I did a gender swap on this because I thought it would be more interesting instead of having the competition between the two men, it being more of like a classic like woman that does a lot of productions for the church in town that is taking over some of the local theater things, and then this, big time New York actor person comes in and takes over, and it's like, I've been doing this for years. What is the issue? And she kind of screams woman that plays piano at church to me a little bit in this kind of role. And I could see also having that there's 2 minutes of dialogue on her face of annoyance when dealing with Zachary Quinto's character. And incredible actress Octavia Spencer is who I went for that one, from Ma, Hidden Figures, The Help, Shape of Water. Incredible actress. And she reads so much on her face with her acting.
They could play off each other nicely. There's a nice contrast there. There should be some really interesting scenes between those two actors, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's Barb Balaban instead of Bob. And then we've got the only other casting that I got, and it's going to be played a little bit more in both versions that I have, is Steve Stark, who's the councilman that was a little too into the production. He was clearly like a super fanboy for Corky, and that was played for laughs, like the dude that is kind of slowly realizing that he's into it for more than just the acting purposes. I want to kind of put a little bit more of a charmed tone to that, where there's almost a mutual kind of like, and the flip in the story is that Corky doesn't have a wife no one's met, that Steve Stark has a wife that like is there at the production with him, is a present figure in the world, and it's more like him kind of realizing like, fuck, something has awakened in me. Is this Red, White, and Blaine really opened up my heart a little bit, and more about somebody kind of realizing, the idea that when you have access to, if access to other ways of being and other people and cultures and ideas, that's when you can kind of realize more about yourself from having access to it, having an understanding of it. So that's what I want to kind of get from Steve Stark, is that it's great. More of like, oh, gay. That's like his first real like interaction with an open, like, Corky is going to be an openly gay man. There's no hinting at it or anything. No, he's fully openly gay. No problem.
I don't know that Steve Stark's adoration in the movie was sexual.
It was
played it was fawning, and it was all in. But I don't know that that was the intention of that character. Like, it definitely could be read that way.
There was a longing look when he went up to Corky St. Clair after the production, and he was like, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And then Corky turns to talk to somebody else, and then Steve is walking away, and he looks back, and it looks like a longing look at Corky.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, so that's how I read it, and I can fully understand somebody else playing it a different way, and just have somebody that's like way too into local theater. It's the same person that's just like any popular band. They're like, no, I only listen to local. And it's like, you mean the person that's like shitting in a bucket and then hitting a cymbal, like that noise band that played last week? Like, that's real music, man. Settle down.
I had a buddy that took me to the Bird Theater once to show me the organ player, and the look that he gave me as he was watching the organ player, because he wanted me to see this organ player, was that Steve look. So
okay. Maybe your friend gets horny for organ. I mean,
maybe.
Also, I would love that to be the name of this episode. So yeah, that's my casting. I didn't say who Steve Stark was. I went with Matt Bomer, and if you're unfamiliar, he was he was the main dude in White Collar. He's in Doom Patrol as Negative Man, I think. He was in Boys in the Band, Magic Mike XXL. That huge role for him. And then In Time, which was the interesting idea, not the best execution, sci-fi movie with, I think, Justin Timberlake, I think, was in that.
Yeah, I saw him as Negative. I watched just enough Doom Patrol to catch him. at the tail end of what I watched.
Yeah, I finished most of season 1, I think is where I landed at the moment. I'm going to go back and finish it. It got a little bit, it dragged a little bit for me.
Just wanted to support Brendan Fraser, that's all.
Seriously, now that he's getting back out there and doing things, even if he is a metal man in this one.
Yeah.
All right, so we have our real takes, the way that we would approach this if we had the best options available to us. Now we are going into the remix version, and this is where it's going to get very weird, I'm sure, moving forward with this. So for your remix, are you keeping it as a modern tale? Are you doing a period piece? Are you doing a drama, action, comedy, anime? Like, what are we doing here?
Pitch 2 is torture porn.
Okay. All right. I am interested to, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know. I have no fucking idea how you're doing this. Let's just get in.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do was still be able to gather these people, but in a different genre. So a group of loosely connected people, all connected through their friend Guffman, have been invited to a place and gathered together. When they get into the place, they find out they're trapped, and they're forced to act out improv games as they slowly are murdered when they fail in the improv games, leading to the surprise ending of the movie. But under these circumstances, my director's James Wan.
Yeah.
And because of course. And the Corky, who is the person who is actually implementing all of the torture, who is directing this project, is John Malkovich.
Oh, yeah. I would not be surprised if we found out that John Malkovich had a bunch of people locked up in his basement. I mean, but the thing is, he'd be like, it's for research. And people are like, it might be.
Yeah, I actually spent the early afternoon watching sketches with John Malkovich to see if I could pull off a John Malkovich impression. I can't, but It was fun.
I realized this on a previous episode of something, that John Malkovich is just Werner Herzog without the accent.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. But my players are, and it's not really important as to who is who in this one. They're just victims. They're just there to be pretty and be victims. As Libby Mae Brown, I have Yara Shahadi, who is from Grownish and Blackish.
Mm-hmm.
She's the eldest daughter. For Dr. Alan Pearl, we have Dan Levy, Eugene's son. As the Albertsons, we have Olivia Wilde from House and the director of Booksmart. And then for Ron Albertson, we have Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
Because he's pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
For Bob Alban, Lloyd Miller, the pianist, Jay Baruchel again.
Yay.
Johnny Savage is Henry Golding, who was the lead of what was the Asian movie? What was
the one
Asian in the title? Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh, okay.
he was not the generic Asian movie, but actually had Asian in the title. Crazy Rich Asians. Henry Golding was the lead in that.
Okay.
And then for actually, those are all my main characters. And then in the end, we find out that their friend Guffman, who they're all waiting for, they're waiting for Guffman to come and rescue them from this situation. They were fooled into gathering under these circumstances because they thought that Guffman gathered them. They were like, no, it wasn't Guffman. This guy fooled us. John Malkovich fooled us into gathering here. But somehow they figure out that Guffman's still coming. And in the end, Guffman does come, and it's John C. Reilly. But John C. Reilly is actually the mastermind of this torture gathering, and in the end, everybody gets killed, including John Malkovich.
All right, sweet. So it sounds like it's very, of course, Saw-ish with your approach to it, but also with the casting, it's going to be a hell of a lot funnier than a normal Saw movie.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of leaning in on this one for some of the actors. I know that at the very least, Olivia Wilde and Ryan Reynolds would have so much fun in those roles.
Oh, yeah, they're going to have a blast.
And John C. Reilly as well, and even John Malkovich. What was the Space Force show that was on Netflix that had one season that John Malkovich was in, that he got to really play with his straight man against Steve Carell a little bit more. And he did a great job. He should be in more comedies.
No, he can be funny, and John C. Reilly can do intense really well as well, which we don't get to see him in those roles very often, but yeah, he can do intense very well.
Well, they say if you can do comedy, then you can do about anything else. So, and John C. Reilly can definitely do comedy. So for mine, I'm definitely going a very different direction than the original. That's part of the fun of this. And the plot that is coming into this before I share the director is that this is not in Blaine, Missouri. This is actually a border town in Texas. That is, it's a dying town, and the theater community is small and struggling to keep this local theater open. They're not getting nearly as much financing from the council as they used to because there just aren't as many people in town. And Corky St. Clair is a minimally successful actor in Mexico, in the neighboring town that's just across the border, that shares the same name. There's a couple of those towns in the U.S. and Mexico that are kind of split almost, and this is one of those. And the councilman, Steve Stark, is a local councilman that's trying to figure out a way to save the local arts community, basically. And they're in an affair. Steve Stark is married. He is on the down low. Benicio del Toro is the Corky St. Clair character, and he is open, gay actor in Mexico, and the tone is entirely informed by the director, Alejandro Inarritu. Inarritu, Birdman, The Revenant, Babel, 21 Grams, Amor Perros. Very bleak.
So this is going to be a lot.
It's bleak. It's a bleak story. And the basic idea is that the councilman comes up with an idea that, this town has had some bloody history over its time in existence. And if they, as kind of a performance stunt, get the two parts of the town to work together to create this theater production about the history of the town and showing the community that's happened now versus the history behind it, it would be a media sensation that people would pick up on and share all over the internet as this heartwarming story about two different cultures coming together to do a thing. And that's his idea. And, his boyfriend, who is in the theater community, he's like, so you need to help me with this. And he begrudgingly agrees to help out. And so there's the love triangle thing happening with Steve's wife being around here and there, and him having to just pretend to not be fucking the councilman in front of everybody. Also, Corky, that's his nickname. That's not his birth name in this. His niece, that he takes care of is, going to be Libby Mae Brown. That's going to be his niece that he's bringing on, as one of the cast members, from Mexico that's coming over to kind of incorporate into some of the actors that normally are involved in the town's productions. So, we've got, for Corky St. Clair, Benicio del Toro, as I said, for the Albertsons, they are going to be my waspy couple. That it's that is all the conversation about privilege is coming mainly from those two. They're self-important. They think they deserve everything. They're challenged by the fact that they still have to audition, even though they've been in two of Bob Balaban's plays before, and they have to audition for this new director, and they're just furious about it. And that fence walky racist where no overt terms are used, but it is absolutely implied. So we've got, for Ron Albertson, I went with Domhnall Gleeson, who was in The Revenant, has worked with the director before. Very versatile actor. He's done warm and inviting character, and also demented, hateful character from his Star Wars stuff that he's done. So he can make that turn. And I really needed an actor that could do that, that could go from kind of warm, friendly, and then just hateful on a dime. Then for Sheila Albertson, I went with an actress that is blowing me the fuck away, with her most recent film, Carey Mulligan. If you have not seen Promising Young Woman,
yeah, it's a lot.
It's an intense movie, and it talks about some very challenging things about consent and but it's done in such a way that's not at all exploitative that I was incredibly
I was definitely
impressed.
a fan.
Yeah, it was incredibly well done. And her acting choices in that were above and beyond. Very playing it muted when some actors would go big and it just worked better. That I was very, very impressed. And great list of movies: Promising Young Woman, Drive, The Great Gatsby. The first time that I was aware of her, she played Sally Sparrow in the Blink episode of Doctor Who.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So that's.
Did you see her in The Dig?
Do what?
I think it's called The Dig.
No, I've seen the trailer for it. And it looks really good. I haven't had a chance to see it yet.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's like during what, World War I or something, or World War II, or.
I believe it takes place after World War I or before, but that's not the setting. It's about finding an archaeological buried archaeological site on her property. It's really, really good, and it's based on a true story. So
okay, it looked good from what I remember, but she's a great actress. I think would be able to nail the like privileged white girl like attitude that's like looks down on other people.
100%.
Then we've got Libby Mae Brown, the niece of Benicio del Toro. She a little younger than I was looking for, but she's such a phenomenal actress that I couldn't think of somebody that would do better than Daphne Keane, who you may know as she was in Logan. She was in his Dark Materials as well right now, which is the Golden Compass series.
How old is she now?
She's like 16 or 17, so she's close. Like she could play. She's a couple years younger than what I was aiming for, which was like 19, 20-year-old.
Now that works.
So but if you make her niece, then there's an understanding why she's there, and it's fine. You can still play that role. There's nothing overtly sexual about that character. You just pull back a little bit on her audition from how Parker Posey did it.
Teacher's pride.
Yeah, maybe a different choice. And then we've got Dr. Alan Pearl, and this actor was in Beautiful, a lesser-known film by the director, and incredible actor Javier Bardem.
Nice.
I could see him as just like a gruff dentist / like always been interested in acting but never taken it up, and just he's got a presence but he has no actual talent, and it's just like
definitely perfect for an Inarritu movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100% perfect tone for that. And then for Bob Balaban, the normally doing the directing, and then there's definitely like a head-to-head thing with him and Corky St. Clair where they're battling it out basically on the tone of this, that Corky St. Clair is incorporating a lot of actual facts about the bloodied history of this town and how like the dark shit that happened on the border over the history of our United States. He's trying to incorporate that more in and have a more honest conversation about it. And of course, Bob is having none of that. He wants that glossed over, just completely like
the 1776 Project.
Exactly. Yeah. Like just pasteurized version of the town's history, and they're banging heads. The lead in Birdman, Michael Keaton, I think would be brilliant in that role, as just like angry and not like necessarily overtly racist so much as like, that's not how we do it here. It's more like ingrained fundamentally. It's not something that he recognizes himself. It's just kind of, he sees himself as above just in general, and he doesn't even recognize it. And then we have finally the Steve Stark character, the lover of Corky St. Clair, the married man that's on the down low. I picked an actor, a gay actor that also is from Texas, so has something to like inform the role. Jim Parsons.
Oh, nice.
I thought would be, because he can play professional and, looks good in a suit kind of attitude.
Trying to figure out, so he played a serious role in Hidden Figures. Has he done other serious roles?
I know he's done a few other serious roles. He was also in The Boys in the Band as one of the main characters, but also like, he's done I think a number of smaller serious roles. I think he does more serious roles than he does comedic roles at this point.
I could see that.
So I think he's trying to get away from the Big Bang Theory stuff a little bit.
As people do. Yeah, you do a successful sitcom for, a decade? You have to immediately try to run.
Yeah, it was like 10 or 12 years they were on. So yeah, and it's like, I think the most successful series of all time, I think.
I can see that.
It stole it from Friends, if I remember correctly. But that's, yeah, I understand being like, no, we're only doing like really important artistic shit now. So that's Steve Stark, who is having that affair and doing the thing and trying to basically comes up with this whole cockamamie scheme. And at the end of it, it ends up being where there's like a totally polarized approach to how people are playing their characters in this play. Mm-hmm. So it's like two different visions that are on stage at the same time. And so it's just so fundamentally disjointed that it actually kind of works in a weird way, where it is unintentionally showing the difference in the way people portray history on stage, even though that wasn't the intention in the first place. So it comes off as kind of brilliant, even though
Does it ever descend into physical conflict?
No, there's definitely like coming right up to that point,
nice,
like right to the razor's edge of it, and it just doesn't get there. You know, they get wrangled before that happens. So
yeah, keeping that tension alive with no release is kind of a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
to be able to ride that edge.
And so the thing is, when I came up with this, I was thinking of make it dark because that would be funny, but I kind of want to see this movie.
No, I would definitely watch.
Yeah, so that is my idea for a dark and social commentary approach to Waiting for Guffman, the funny Christopher Guest mockumentary. Yes. So now we've got our mashups, and we have a few to look at here before we move forward. The first one is from Amy Bogard, my co-host on Deeply Upsetting, a show that you should definitely check out on the network. We've got...
It's real good.
It's a fun show to do, too. We're actually recording later tonight.
You guys have incredible energy together. You are... I listen to a lot of shows that do, like, they have kind of an improv back and forth, but you guys are really good. Like, you're really good.
Thanks.
Together.
I appreciate that. We have so much fun doing it, and we've gotten to where we can kind of read each other on, I'm going to go, and the other person can just kind of look at the other one and know that it's time to bounce back and forth. She mentioned a movie that we watched recently she hadn't seen before, Drop Dead Gorgeous, which nice. I think is a great choice for a Christopher Guest kind of mashup, is that you can have like beauty queens. You can have Parker Posey's character as a beauty queen.
Yeah, still in that mockumentary world. Yeah.
You combine the two. I don't know if is there like a small town national local playoff like there was with the beauty queen thing and Drop Dead Gorgeous, where just like local plays fight each other.
I could see something like that for like short form, like short 1X.
Sure.
Where you have like maybe a week-long session of watching 1X from shitty small towns. And
that sounds like hell. That sounds truly awful. That sounds like an open mic night at like a beach front bar where they play Jimmy Buffett all the time. Like,
I mean, it sounds like hell for even professional theater. So yeah.
Yeah. Like an open mic where there's the guy that's just like the drunk dad that's just like, everybody tells me I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up, and with like nothing prepared.
I could do it.
And there's the drunk wife like, you go get him, baby. Just grabbing people's hands and like trying to make them clap. And yeah.
Yeah. This is our Guffman experience. This is part of our Guffman experience.
It's actually funny that we've both, we met in stand-up, and neither one of us kind of approached it in that like stand-up approach to the Waiting for Guffman story instead, where there's like a stand-up version of it, where a showcase of local comedians or something with a major booker coming into town to check it out or something. You could definitely have that story.
Oh, that would definitely be a fun take. I don't know where that stands in the culture at large, though, if that's part of the zeitgeist. Everybody's podcasting now, so.
Like even the stand-ups.
Yeah.
I think every stand-up started a podcast when the pandemic hit, if they didn't already have one. They're like, okay, I guess this is what I do now. The next one actually works with the whole local community theaters battling each other. The Groots from Beautiful Disaster suggested Battle Royale as a mashup for Waiting for Guffman, which you get dropped off on an island and you have to put on a play to survive? I'm not sure how that...
Well, it'd probably descend into something like My Second Take.
True. Yeah. Like a Saw style that if you miss your mark, then your head explodes.
You didn't strike that stool.
Right. You forgot your lines. Well, and then finally we've got the last one. This, I don't even know how to approach this, but fuck it. We're going to try. Dale Leopold suggested the butthole cut of Cats, mixed with.
I mean, it could be theater, so yeah.
I mean, instead of the Taylor Swift song where she's like dosing everybody with catnip, you can just have that scene about like trying to put on a local community theater version of Cats with cats.
With cats with buttholes, yeah.
Cats with buttholes, yeah.
I have one as well. This one is maybe too obvious, but I'm thinking of Waiting for Guffman and the Producers with the Blaine players doing Springtime for Hitler.
Oh my God. And I cannot stress enough how much I enjoyed the music from the original Waiting for Guffman in the first place. It was incredible. But just that cast doing Springtime for Hitler might be the funniest thing that would have ever happened.
It'd be glorious.
Glorious. Holy shit. The pitch perfect tone, a tone of Springtime for Hitler in the Producers, of it being so inappropriate that it is it is actually approachable because there's no way it's serious. And then, yeah, that cast, Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy, and yeah, fucking perfect. I would love that. I was thinking that you could do an episode, like if Glee was still around, you could do a Waiting for Guffman Glee episode.
Oh, that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Where like the kids went to a local community theater to help senior citizens put on a story of the town. And then it's just basically beat for beat the same thing, but with the little kids singing songs with the elderly. And then boom, good to go. All right. So now we are at the tail end, which is both the train wreck and my favorite part of the episode when we come up with our trailers for it. I think I am going to do the remix version, Alejandro Inarritu. I'm going to do that version. Which version do you think you're going to do?
I'm going to do the James Wan torture porn.
All right. So we're both doing our remixes. So let me get music going.
From the mind of Alejandro Inarritu and inspired by the classic mockumentary Waiting for Guffman, is a story of a bloody battle between two sides of the same town, with a line drawn in the sand. Join Corky St. Clair, played by Benicio del Toro, as he does a solid for his lover Steve Stark, a local councilman, and puts together a community theater tale of togetherness and history of the town. But whose history? This summer, join Ron Albertson and Sheila Albertson as they show their privilege, played by Domhnall Gleeson and Carey Mulligan, and young niece Libby May, played by Daphne Keane, as she figures out that not everyone understands the world from your perspective. This summer, join Michael Keaton as Bob Balaban, a man whose vision is being skewed by Corky St. Clair, played by Benicio del Toro. Waiting for Guzman.
Together apart. By the by, Bob Balaban is the name of the actor. The character's name was Lloyd Miller.
Oh, fuck yeah. Okay. Yep. I got that backwards. Yep. Anyway.
But that was perfect.
Yeah. I appreciate your assist there at the end. That was fantastic. Jesus Christ. All right. So look forward to that this summer. The Bleak Waiting for Guzman. All right. Let me get you.
You know what? That would be reviewed on almost every movie show that I listen to. So
right.
All right.
Let's do it.
In a world in which improv is slightly more acceptable than one in which we live. What would you do if your choices were improv or death? And your only chance of survival is if Guffman can get to you on time. Coming this summer, directed by James Wan, Yar Shahadi, Dan Levy, Olivia Wilde, Ryan Reynolds, Jay Barrett, and John Malkovich are doing shitty improv to save their lives and waiting for Guffman.
He's trying to help me change my instincts, or at least ignore them. Ah!
Brilliant. That is fantastic. All right. Well, I think that we need both of these versions to make their way to the local Cineplex in the not too distant future. So Hollywood, call us. We'll get a script together for you.
With our track record, 2021, we might see these movies.
No shit. Now, if you're not busy getting the money together to produce these fantastic films, make sure that you check out My Handle is Jonathan Blade. Where can they find that stuff?
So you can find My Handle is Jonathan Blade on pretty much every podcatcher. It's out there. If you want to hit me up to talk to me as a creator directly, I'm on Twitter. It's janky old broke hobo Spider-Man at Jonathan Blade. And yeah, that's the best way to get at me because I'm on Twitter pretty much all the time.
You're doing some YouTube stuff now too, or?
So I actually started as a YouTuber.
Yeah.
The Jonathan Blade channel precedes the My Handle is Jonathan Blade podcast. Yeah. And stuff goes up on the YouTube channel from time to time, but the best way to see my stuff is or interact with my stuff is from the podcast.
Okay, cool. We're going to try to be getting you on a little bit more frequently. The last episode, you mentioned this idea, and I looked back, and I could have sworn the last episode you were on was like maybe 6 weeks ago, but it was like in October.
Yeah, time is meaningless in the age of COVID.
Nothing. So we're going to try to get you on a little bit more because I love these conversations. I love your approach. Even your real takes on these things are still incredibly creative in their approach to it. So I do appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing your ideas with me on this
like
episode.
You, I love movies, and I appreciate being brought on.
Fuck yeah, it's so much fun to just... this is such a fun sandbox to play in. So...
damn Skippy.
I do appreciate it. And I appreciate our listeners for checking out this episode. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe, all that stuff you do with podcasts. Rating us, reviewing us, brings us up in the standings so more people get access or get notice of this show. And we really like that. Also, check out TeePublic. We're going to be working on, if numbers go well for a particular episode, we're going to try to work on start making shirts relating to some of the versions of those episodes. So if you really like this episode and the numbers do really well, we could see a Saw version of Waiting for Guffman as a T-shirt or as a.
I'm just waiting for that. It's T'Challa Hobbit T-shirt to drop on the.
We're working on getting some of our more talented artist friends to engage with us a little bit more and come up with some designs for us. So we're going to be hopefully hitting that pretty hard as people have reason to leave the house more with new shirts and designs. So
nice.
Wash your fucking hands, get your vaccines, and we'll find you next time. I'm Mike the Hobbit, and you just got pitch smacked.
GUIPodcast.com.
My name is Amy Bogard.
And I'm Mike the Hobbit.
And we are the hosts of Deeply Upsetting, where we use our expertise to answer your most upsetting hypothetical quandaries, such as, what non-winged animal deserves wings?
And what body part deserves a secret mouth?
Which cryptid is the worst roommate?
These questions and more that plague you will be answered on Deeply Upsetting, available anywhere you get your podcasts and at GUIPodcast.com.